Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into another great episode with, well, myself and Jer,
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
uh, to Tattoos Infinity and Beyond. Now, you've gotten a glimpse into what we do via going to, tattoo shops, Jer's house when we did our very first episode, and did your tattoos. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going beyond. We're doing the beyond aspect of things at this present time. The beyond part of it is bringing in the idea of Disney, which is where we got a lot of inspiration from, right?
Yep.
So I have one of my dear friends, someone that I cherish more than anything, and many people know this. Someone who has been a big part of my life instrumentally as a Disney cast member, someone who's helped me with my travel stuff, someone who genuinely cares about the brand, not only being a cast member, but just Disney in general. That'd be my good friend, Katie Erwin. Welcome to the program, Katie. How you doing?
Hello.
So, what is it about Disney? I'm just going to start off. I'm going to go get right into it. How long have you loved Disney, and what is it about Disney that has drawn you to the brand all these years?
Well, Disney, as long as I can remember, it was basically inbred into me at a young child from my grandmother, who was also a very big Disney person. And when I turned, of age to be able to get my first job, it was a no-brainer for me. I automatically went to apply for a position at Disney. And it means so much to me on a personal level for that reason. But now, as being a cast member for so many years, it's a different sort of personal meaning.
Awesome. I mean, I know when I met you many years ago, your love, you could tell outwardly your love, and that was just being a mansion cast member when I met you. And that was something that we both bonded over many days in the queue, many days in the house itself, was just our personal love. So I'm going to actually hand it off to Jer. I'm going to let Jer ask a couple questions because I know more about you than anything. And I want you to, I want to hear a perspective from two people who love Disney as much as I do and you do. But I'm going to hand it off to Jer for a second. Jer, go ahead.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to go super simple. Favorite Disney movie, favorite Pixar movie.
I can name a Pixar off the bat, which is Coco. Disney movie, that one's actually a little hard for me because it fluctuates. If I have to pick one just overall, it's Mary Poppins. That's my all-time favorite.
Why Mary Poppins? Now, I can see Bert because Bert is my favorite character in the animation effects that they did, but why Mary Poppins?
Again, it's on a personal level. It has very deep meaning for me about who I used to watch it with. And also Julie Andrews it's just this comforting presence about Julie Andrews that I'm completely drawn to. And not just Mary Poppins, but Sound of Music and The Princess Diaries. So, and then just she's so quick-witted and she's kind of sassy, but in a very posh way, which I love to see. And it kind of resonates with me because I'm kind of the same way, but I'm not posh about it by any means. I have no filter. And where I look at Mary Poppins, she was like, I need to be like that more.
The most filtered I've ever seen you was with the Price family and the Davis family. That was the most filtered I've ever seen you. And it was nice because you got to do the I'm Julie Andrews bit for a minute. And you know where I got that from. I did. A little inside joke. I'm going to fill Jaron. So when we worked at the parks, what show was that? Was that Believe? It wasn't Believe, was it? What fireworks show was that?
When they came out,
we were together
in March.
At the parks.
That was, I think it was Mickey's Mix Magic at the time because it wasn't Disneyland Forever yet, because that came with the Electrical Parade for the summer. So I think it's Mix Magic.
Was it when we worked together? That wasn't. I'm not talking about Mixed Magic. I'm talking about when we worked together in 2012, the fireworks show.
Oh, back then, that was Remember Dreams Come True, the 50th anniversary.
So Remember Dreams, it always started every night, because it'd end right at Fan, and we would be positioned in our Bumblebee costumes, and you would hear, "I'm Julie Andrews," and everybody who was in fan would start dying with laughter because it became just this inside joke for all of us that, okay, well, we know you're Julie Andrews and we know your voice, but can we get on with it because we want to go home?
Right. Yeah.
So anytime I hear Julie Andrews or I go by the carousel, it's become like this running joke for me. I don't know about you, but I love it because it's Julie Andrews.
Honestly, that's a little piece of info I had completely forgotten about, but you reminded me. So now I'll never forget it. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a wealth of Disney knowledge. Remember that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so now I'm going to go on the other hand of Pixar. What is it about Coco?
Aside from it being completely emotionally damaging in a fun way, but
Yeah.
I'm also half Mexican, and I actually was kind of denied my heritage for quite a bit of my youth. And so I started taking on the responsibility to learn it myself through cooking, music, fashion, cultural importances. And when Coco came out and it showed me more of it to another side, while it's still fictional and just a really great story, it does highlight a lot of the beautiful aspects of that culture and for the time of Day of the Dead. So that really spoke to me. And then, of course, as you well know, James, I used to have a very close relationship with my own grandmother. So seeing Grandma Coco and Mama Imelda and all of that strong maternal figures in Miguel's life also resonated with me. So it was a very powerful movie for me.
It's a great one. It's a tearjerker for sure.
Yeah, that movie I've only watched a handful of times. Like I can count on one hand how many times I've watched it because of how emotional it really is. And like I have little kids and they're asking questions, I'm like, I'm not ready for this as a dad overall.
Aww.
But it's a wonderfully great movie. It has great representation. That leads me to my next question, because with the love of Disney, we know that Walt's dream overall was the park was ever going to be changing. Do you feel that the embracing of heritage and other cultures' heritage has lived up to that idea?
In a way, yes, I do believe so, because you're seeing, even if it's in small batches, you are seeing it trickle more into not just the Disney movies, but Disney parks and different Disney programs across the globe. And it feels nice to know that you are seen, you are recognized for just existing. And it's, even though like I feel like we do have a little bit of ways to go in terms of representation, it's at least it's moving along, it's getting there. And I think as a whole it's widely accepted.
Yeah, I agree. I can agree to that. Jer, how do you feel about the idea of the heritage being brought in, and do you see Katie's view on it?
Oh yeah, I love it. It's because everyone's like now there's becoming like princesses of the same color as you or other people, and they're like, hey, look, she looks like me. Where as opposed to like years ago, they didn't have that representation at Disney, but now they're slowly bringing it in. So now everybody feels included in the Disney.
Yeah. And I think it can be so beneficial to just everyone in general. I personally love learning about all cultures, but that's just me as a person. I'm like a sponge. So when I see something new about even my own culture, like I said, I didn't grow up with it. It's like, wow, I'm learning something new about myself. But it's also fun to learn about like friends of mine, family members, or even just guests that I meet on a regular. It's nice knowing that I can learn so much more about people in general.
Sorry, I'd bring my headphones down so I can, have them around so I can hear.
It's okay.
It happens. So with that said, you deal with people on the daily. What is it that you do at the Disney parks? Describe to everybody, because I know we didn't go to there. I didn't have you introduce yourself. I just went right into the hard hitting questions, right?
No
what
worries.
What is it that you do?
So as of right now, I'm a artist for a small third party company that works on Disney properties. So we're not considered full cast members, but we are participating operating participants. Sorry, I paint people's names or family surnames with different Disney characters, Marvel characters, and things like that. I'm also now a face painter. So
I got to experience the face painting firsthand with Grayson and Gavin, my boys. And Gavin wanted a kitty on his face, and well, Grayson wanted a kitty too, but he wanted a full blown tiger. So
yeah,
Katie's phenomenal at what she does. I've watched her, and then previously you were an attractions cast member as well as doing like events and stuff like that. I know because we got
yep,
cast to different things.
yep.
What is like? I don't know. I'm going to have Jer ask some questions because I do a lot of the talking on other questions. And I don't like that. I want to let everybody talk.
I do have one question. Are you located in the park
Yeah.
or are you in downtown Disney?
Both actually. For the name painting, it's for both parks and downtown, and then for face painting, it is just California Adventure and Disneyland at the moment.
I'll have to remember that. We'll be down there in November with my little niece for her first time.
Yes,
Excited.
please.
We were down there for Dapper Day and the very first Christmas Day.
Oh, are you gonna do pajama day for the first day of Christmas?
If that's a thing, then yes.
Oh, it is.
It's
a thing.
starting to grow into a thing. Yeah.
It was slowly a thing when I was a cast member with you in the early 2010s. It like you'd see people throughout doing it, and then it's slowly grown over the last 10 years. It's gotten big. It's kind of like the evolution of Dapper Day. He brought up Dapper Day, which I will be there for as well.
I will be too.
We didn't know that.
Completely unplanned, by the way. So we were talking Disney plans and trying to figure stuff out, and he goes, "We're going in November." I go, "Hey, so am I. When are you going?" He goes, "Well, I'm going this date and this day." I go, "Oh, I'll be there that time as well." So now it's like what you and I were talking off camera a couple days ago, and I told you it's going to be like a content creator like get together, because we'll have my travel agency down there. We'll have myself. We'll have Jer and his photography. He runs a photography business, and then we'll have our podcast stuff, and then we'll have my buddy from the Marine Corps with us, who does the Disney pins with me as well. He does we call it Diz picking, and we go pick just different rare Disney stuff and find stuff. So
how fun.
We haven't produced any content really in a long time. We've done a couple things, but there's like just all this conglomerate of stuff going there. And I was trying to talk Harrison and Ashley into coming, but they have something that's conflicting. They believe in that time. It would have been a lot of fun. It would have been a riot. We all know. So
yeah.
So Dapper Day, like I was getting at, is a slow build as well. That has only taken off the last few years, really, too. I know you've taken
the last decade or so.
Yeah. What is Dapper Day like for a cast member from a cast member perspective? Because you've seen it from both sides.
Yes. Oh, as a cast member, it is the best people watching you can get, because the styles and the people who go all out with their outfits, where they take Disney bounding to the 10th degree, and then just the beautiful outfits that these people choose to wear and create. It is prime people watching, especially on a slow day, if it's slow, which it's not, but you get my drift.
Well, there is no slow time anymore at the parks. No, that time of year would have been really slow, early November, and then now it's not.
Yeah. I will say this, now that you mentioned that, I've been seeing weekdays are far more busier than like Saturdays have been lately, which is
Monday's
weird.
The new Saturday.
Yes, it is. It's insane.
So do you? So that leads me to my next question. And Jared, chime in anytime, because I know you have one of these as well. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that the Magic Key has a lot to do with that, or do you think it's people coming and visiting, just in general from all over? I know there's going to be a good mix being a travel agent and all, but do you feel that the Magic Key has played a lot into the busyness of the weekdays?
Yeah, I feel like it has, because with the different passes that are available, they do make it only available for weekdays. So people have had to adjust their visiting schedules in a way. So they've decided to come on a Monday or Tuesday instead of a Saturday because they just physically can't. So, and that's fine, but it just kind of throws off the jive of the entire park day, even as a cast member working there. It's just like, I should be busy on a Saturday because it makes the most sense, but here I am, busting my tail on a Tuesday.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, from my perspective of being there, and just a few weeks ago, I came right after Labor Day, and I came during a heat wave, which we won't even talk about the heat wave. The fact is I noticed, and it was also D23 week, so I have a different skewed view of how it is. But I do know from when I was there in March to September that the crowds have increasingly gotten larger due to opening up Magic Keys. But I have also noticed that it's a lot more of just single, like, solo travelers. I'll sit and people watch the single rider line, and I'll see 15, 20, 30 single riders go through, say, Radiator Springs in a matter of 5 minutes. And then, that line's always long, and there's always Lightning Lane and all that. But before, you wouldn't hardly ever see a single rider line. There was only a handful of rides that were single rider because it dictated it. And now it seems like everything has a single rider to some degree, or some way to get on there quicker if you're a solo person. And they've always tried to expedite that, but I think there's a lot more solo travel now.
I agree with that. And I think a lot of it has to do with people back in the day. The stigma was, you're going to Disneyland by yourself without kids. It was not of the norm. But now, with a new generation of, Disney millennials and the adults, we're all adults now, and hardly any of us have kids at the moment, or if planning on having any at all. So it's more of the norm to see solo adult travelers coming to Disneyland. And I think it's great, because even when I was a young adult teenager and was working there still, I would even find myself going there like on a day off just by myself. And I've loved it ever since. And I still do solo days. I love it.
The solo thing. So, Jer, with you, did you notice a chicken? I'll get back to the solo stuff in a second, because I love solo stuff at the parks. But Jer, did you find the crowds? I know you have a Magic Key number 1. Mm-hmm. Did you find that having the Magic Key helped you, or did you notice an uptick of, say, like, you saw more Magic Key people than single day, ticket?
Well, I know when I was there, they also had like special Magic Key things where if you went there those specific days, you also got like prizes, and like they gave you free stuff. And anyone who everybody wants free stuff. So if they had a Magic Key, they were going those days specifically, because who doesn't want free stuff? Even if it's just a small plastic straw that you can travel with, everybody wants it. Yeah. And I know because of the Magic Key, it's not making us go more than we usually would, because usually we'd go maybe once a year. Now in November will be our second time going, and then we'll also go in February. So we're like, well, our key ends in March, might as well get it in. So I feel like a lot of people are going to be doing that, just crunching in, getting in there as much as they can.
Yeah, well, I could see that too with the advent of people who got the keys later in the year before they decided they were going to shut off selling them, and renewals for a little bit. And those people who are riding out like Jared till March, I can see that causing more solo and single day travel. Like you hit a great point. I remember being a cast member and loved soloing the park, because I felt like I had a different lens. I felt like I had a different period. Do you feel, and I know we had a conversation about what I could and could not ask, but do you feel as a cast member, after everything that you learned, that your perspective of how Disney is changes?
Yes and no, but yes, because I know inner workings. I know how things operate, behind the scenes things. However, I feel like, for myself anyway, I have a pretty good on and off switch. Yeah. I can go from cast member to guest fairly easily, while it flips back and forth quickly. But I feel like I can still see it from the perspective of a guest 95% of the time. And cast member is just that remaining bit.
I think for me, the cast member part, when I'm in the parks, comes on when it comes to the trivial stuff. The stuff that nobody really pays attention to or knows. I still talk about the time tunnel, because nobody knows about the time tunnel. I can describe it, but nobody will ever understand what that means to me as a cast member. And you know it from that perspective. And I'm not going to describe what the time tunnel is on this here. It's no need for it. The fact is there's a relic piece of history as a cast member that only cast members get to see. You only get to see rare things from a cast member perspective. You get to see stuff from a different peer view that you normally wouldn't see as a normal guest, though, too. And that's where I think when it comes to the on and off switch, when I'm around cast members, that are either still there that I know, like Dupac, Roberto, our good friend Roberto, you, obviously. There's still a handful. Isaac Swim over at Splash Mountain. I didn't see Joan the last time I was there. I don't know if Joan's still at the park. But people that stick out in my mind.
I thought she was.
Yeah, but these are people that stick out in my mind still. That for overall, that's when I really turn up that Disney that I was taught. When I see something that allows you to create just that little bit of extra magic when I'm in that guest mode, I want to still do that, and that's also what I based my whole travel agency around was Disney. So my life is wrapped and involved in this. I know Jer and I've are investing a lot of time into this podcast because it's tattoo based, which we'll talk about tattoos too. You and tattoos.
Yay!
We'll do some tattoo talk. This ain't Turtle Talk with Crush. This is Tattoo Talk with James and Jer. You know.
Yay! It's just as fun.
Close second. I'd rather be talking to Crush right now.
Who wouldn't? That's one of my favorite. One, air conditioned. Love that.
I love a lot of animation.
But two, you can go there so many times, and it's like the same conversations, but also different. And it's just the interaction that you get with the kids and the adults there too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. The level of the comedic timing reminds me of the improv that the genie would do from the Aladdin show.
Yes.
It's very much the same energy, and it like you said, it can be the same show or the same dialogue every time, but every interaction of the show makes it different, which makes it twice as funny.
Well, and that's that cast member magic. That's not only the Imagineering magic. That's you. All right. So we'll bring it to this. Every land and every position has a role to play. We know this as cast members, but the part that you play within that role and in that land really dictates how you are going to be as a cast member. You know this as well as I do. So you have to be like, when you go into that interview, your first interview, you're pigeonholed as to where you're going to be placed. I was pigeonholed because I wore a 3-piece suit. Like an idiot, I wore a 3-piece suit to an interview. And guess where they placed me? The Haunted Mansion, because I looked the part. I had the energy, I had the dry humor. But you look at a cast member who's doing, say, Turtle Talk with Crush, which is, I love that building in general. Art of Animation building is like my favorite.
I do
air
too.
condition number 1. Great place to take like 15-minute nap if you need to. I've watched parents, I've watched little kids just crash out on those couches. Mm-hmm. The animation building itself, going and doing the drawings. But every cast member, if you look in there, they're like a cartoon character themselves. If you look at it, their energy's high. They're always outgoing. So that person who is doing Crush that day and helping out, they have to have that level. And that's like that Disney magic that cast members really have to provide. Do you find yourself providing that with what you do?
Oh yeah, because currently with my new role, I call it new. I've been there for almost 2 years now, but this kind of a service where I'm painting something for a person, it's a generational magic. I have people come back to see us years and years. I've had grandparents come and get paintings for their new grandbabies, and they like, I got my child one when we came in early 2000 or whatever the case may be. So it's helping create a new memory for your guest that's coming to see you in a way that they get to it lives on forever in their own home. So they're taking home a bit of my magic to their house that they have proof to show instead of like just a story to tell. And there's plenty of stories to tell when you get pixie dusted by a cast member, but it's rare when you can actually physically show the pixie dust.
My boys have theirs. They're floating around. We still haven't unpacked. We've been home like a month at this point almost, and still going through the unpacking process. But Katie
I don't blame you.
did my boys's, and I mean, I tell you what, guys, her work is phenomenal as a cast member, and as just someone who loves Disney. Now, I'm gonna hand it over to Jared. Jared, do you got some other questions you might have here? I know you love that Disney magic.
I have a question.
Okay.
So you're talking about being pigeonholed at the interview.
Okay.
Our retirement goal is to work at Disneyland.
Okay.
So what should I dress as if I want to like work at a specific area? Like what kind of, can you give me some ideas of what to wear?
Oh boy. So here's my thought on it. It depends on the need. And not always the need, but when I came, there was a huge need for Fantasyland, and there's a huge need for Ad Front, which Adventureland and Frontierland, they're housed in the same building, as well as New Orleans Square and Critter Country at West Side. And there's a need for those lands, and so they'll fill you by need. So depending on what the need is for the land, I was pigeonholed by the suit by the need. They needed cast members to fill New Orleans Square and Critter Country at that point. There was like 5 of us who all came at the same time to different rides and different attractions. I know 2 of us went straight to Mansion. Me and a former friend of mine. I haven't talked to Nathan in quite some time, but Nathan Barnaby, him and I came into the parks together to Mansion. I know, Katie, what was your experience when it came to you being in the interview process?
Well, for me at the time, I had been working for another third party that was on Disney property at the time, which was another artist gig at the time. And it was located in New Orleans Critter Country. And I knew I wanted to stay in that land, period. Not only is it my favorite area as a whole, but it's also the area that I'm familiar with at the time. So when I went to the interview process, that was obviously one of my selling points, that I'm already on property. I already am working here. But me personally, I went in just as a normal job interview. I dressed professionally. I had a resume. I dotted my I's and crossed my T's. And I actually was kind of given the option of what I wanted to do in terms of attractions. I had applied for that department in general. And when it came time to asking, what do I want to do? And I said Mansion first myself. At the time, Haunted Mansion wasn't a new hire attraction at that period. Winnie the Pooh was, and it's in the same department. So I said, okay, that's fine, but can I eventually learn Haunted Mansion? They said, absolutely. So I said, sign me up. Yep. So my experience was more on the more, I guess you can say, normal
and it
side.
Also depends on who your hiring manager is. It really, like, dress professional, but like if you go in like I did in a 3-piece suit, and they know that there's only one spot that offers a 3-piece suit, and they see, oh, this kid looks the part.
Yeah.
They're going to put you there. I know I went into the parks wanting to be a Jungle Cruise skipper, because if you guys have been around me enough, I have a really dry sense of humor. It's really dry. It's sophomoric at times. However, the fact of the matter is I knew where I wanted to be, and I had to shift on a dime as to how dry that sense of humor could be. So, how you present yourself in the interview will pigeonhole you. Be professional. I tell everybody, don't go in there looking like a bum, but go. No. I went, like, when I showed up to do like my traditions classes, I showed up in a polo shirt and slacks. I didn't need a 3-piece suit anymore. But the fact of the matter was, I could have showed up in a polo shirt and slacks to the interview and been okay.
Right.
Probably would have ended up at Jungle Cruise.
Yeah. And another part of becoming a cast member, you really want to have to work with people too. Yeah. And whether you're introverted or extroverted, you need to at least have a little bit of a drive to be able to want to work with the public in some capacity. So that is, I feel like that is a very important part too, is you having solid people skills, solid customer service skills. Even if you're trainable to do that, you want to have the willingness to learn and adapt, because while Disney is customer service based, it is not the normal customer service that you see at a grocery store, at a restaurant. It's completely different.
It is. And all right, so I want to ask you your scariest story from when you were first training. Because I got one that is pretty up there for training, because you get put in odd situations.
Well, I have a couple, but the one that always sticks with me, and I use this example for every interview I've ever had in my entire life. This was when I had my first artist job on property when I was 16 years old, and I'm brand new to this. It had to have been maybe my first week on the job. I was at my stand for parasols there in New Orleans Critter Country. May it rest in peace. It's no longer there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't see
But
a parasol stand there anymore. Was
yeah,
replaced by
I
an
don't
ear
think
cart.
it's coming back.
There's an ear cart in its place right there by Cafe Orleans. It's right there on the
On the
corner.
other side.
On the
On the other side.
Yep.
It's not there anymore. It
Yep.
would be it's on the other side, but it's replaced with like the entrance for Cafe Orleans.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, brand new on the job. This is my first job ever as a teenager, and it was during Fantasmic. This is back in the day, Fantasmic. The show's going on, the music is really loud, and I have this gentleman come up to me, and what I believe I heard him ask me was, "Where is City Hall?" So I actually give him directions to City Hall, no problem. But then whatever I said triggered this man so much. He started yelling at me and cussing at me and calling me very, very hurtful things, because he didn't ask me where City Hall was. He asked me where he can go file, like I'm sorry, let me back up. Is there any other place but City Hall that he can go to file a complaint? But I couldn't hear him because Fantasmic is going on, and some of the speakers are right above me.
Yeah. And
I literally just sat there wide-eyed as a deer as a teenager, and I started to cry in front of him because I didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't know what I had done wrong. And unfortunately, this man was just he was beyond help. Nothing I could have said or anyone could have said could have turned his situation around. I was just the one that was the tipping point, basically.
Right.
And so after he, said his little 2 cents and he stormed off, another gentleman was following him, and he stopped to talk to me. He's like, "Honey, don't feel bad," because he was yelling at someone else in the French market. He's pissed off at something, what was happening in there. You did nothing wrong. I'm on my way to follow him to guest relations to actually counter what he was doing at French market, because he was being a jerk over there. So regardless of the situation, it was nice to know that someone had enough in them to like come and comfort me, because I was so distraught. I had never been spoken to before like that in my entire life. So that's the most memorable disgruntled interaction I've ever had, and it stuck to me to this day. So
so disgruntled. So I don't know about disgruntled. I have one disgruntled story, but I think the scariest thing happened to me first day in a red vest. Very first day in a red vest.
Yeah.
So you go down Main Street, you see the red vesters walking, getting ropes out and doing parades. Well, when you first get hired on, they give you your red vest for what is it, a week? They train you in a red vest before they send you to your attraction, or it's like 3 days or a week or whatever it is. They schedule you
something like that
in a vest. And I remember my trainer, her name was Amanda, little short girl, curly hair, and she goes, all right, we're going to take some time. We have some time before we have to get the ropes out. Let's go down to the attraction. You're in your vest. We want to get you acquainted with some of the cast members. I think that's the first time I met you in the break room because I came in a red vest, me and Nathan, and we got to know you guys, and we got to go ride the attraction. Well, before we got to ride the attraction, like 5 minutes before that, we had a family who were of it looked like Saudi or Arabic descent. They had their jabs on, and they lost a child. They lost a child in the middle of what was it, like May in the parks, and they just came off Splash Mountain, and they saw us in a red vest, and they're like, broken English, I lost my child, and Amanda's like, oh, we got this. We got our walkie-talkies. I'm sitting there like, I'm pale. I'm as pale as a ghost. I'm like, first day on the job, I have to go find a lost child. We talked about this. We said it could happen. And I had to go find a child. It was scary. And we found the child. It took less than 10 minutes to find the child. But for your first day on the job, like in some sort of costume, you are literally having to find a child. Disgruntled happened in red vest. It seemed like the red vest seemed to get a lot of. It's like the bull and the red flag happening. You get a lot of grunt. Because
you're most noticeable.
I had one guy quickly, just real quick. I was doing crowd control. The wand, doing this, waving people, and he goes, "Why don't you do your effing job and get out the way and get us out of here quickly?" And he goes, I pay your salary. I turn around, I go, well, thank you, and have a magical day for paying my. I go, thank you, and have a magical day, and I do appreciate you paying my salary. Exits this way. I about lost it, and luckily one of our leads was there to kind of stop. They saw me kind of start getting irritated. They're like, "Come here, just come here." So, but that disgruntled, that was not like yours, but I think the scariest thing was definitely being a part of a lost kid find. That was tough.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and piggyback off one more thing that truly terrified me. Again, everything happens during Phantasmic.
Yep.
Granted. That was the first time I had ever seen a child left unattended sleeping in a stroller in the stroller section.
Wow. And
I've seen it multiple times during my time there back in the day, and every time it would just, I can't even think of what could have happened to this child. It sinks to my stomach. And I remember the first time I saw it, I like ran to my lead at the time. I don't even remember who it was. I was like, what do we do? What do we do? So they calmly explained to me, it happens from time to time, which I was so shocked about. And honestly, all that they can do is just call security to come and, stand by the stroller and basically tell the parents who's supposed to be watching their children, you can't leave your child sleeping in the stroller just because you want to go on Pirates.
Yeah, you can't do that again.
I mean, common sense, but I guess, that's a luxury today.
Right.
I got 4 questions.
Oh, okay. All right.
4.
You ask away, dude. I've been doing most of the talking.
He's like, wait, that just added up.
That's a great thing. I have a friendship with Katie, and I've known her, almost over a decade at this point.
Yeah.
And, she's like an auntie to my kids. So it's easy for us to get in a rolling conversation. This is like how cast members literally, if they're former, if they're still current, like I saw Duke Hobb. I talk to Duke all the time still. Duke is the Canoes cast member that you'll see on Chris Provost's stuff and all that. And I ran into him at the load belt in Mansion, taking the boys down there, and my mom had the scooter and we were at the load belt. They slowed it down. And it's funny because certain people act like I don't know what I'm doing, which they don't know I was a former cast member. Duke comes on the corner, and I can't remember. He's now a legacy cast member. Thank God, he deserves it.
Yes.
But he comes on the corner. I go, "Hey, you." He goes, hey, me who? I go, look who it is, Duke. He goes, oh my God. And he got all excited. And it was just a moment at the load belt that we had. We had like a 5-minute moment because we spent several nights on that load belt at Mansion talking, just doing the treadmill, walking and talking.
Yep.
And
Yep.
not getting in trouble because it's like 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, and no one's
And there's
coming
nobody in there.
Nobody, it's like an old time. He goes, man, this brings back so many memories. So it's like for Katie and I, it's the same sort of thing. It's like we get on a roll, but it, like you said, a lot of time to think of questions. So I mean, what do you got? I mean, shoot them.
All right. Question 1. As a guest at the park, what is your favorite attraction?
My favorite attraction
As a guest.
as a guest. Personal favorite, aside from Haunted Mansion, because that's just an obvious. But yeah, if I were to pick any ride, it's Soarin' over California, not Soarin' over the world, Soarin' over California.
Wasn't a fan of the world.
I don't like it.
I like the smell of dirt though. I like the dirt smell. That's cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I like the orange smell.
Yeah, see California, the orange smell, pine trees.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, you guys. Hold on just one moment. My husband walked in.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm gonna mute my mic
great.
for a second. All right, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I love her husband, Mike. Hopefully you get to meet Mike when we're down there. Mike is the big cuddly teddy bear that everybody loves. I love Mike. My mom loved Mike. My mom, my mom like Mike, because Mike is just this cuddly teddy bear. He's just like Mike. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he'll be there on Dapper Day. He goes to Dapper Day all the time with me now.
That's awesome. And he's someone that you converted. You converted him.
Yeah, I did convert him. He's not quite there like all the way yet, but he's better than he was. So no, he's a converted Disney adult.
When I was there in March, he was there every day with us. That didn't happen the first time I met him.
Nope.
So
he instigates Disney dates now. I'm like, yes.
That's what you've always wanted.
My job here is done.
Right. So back to Jer's question. Your favorite attraction, not as a guest.
Yes. Not as a guest.
I mean as a guest. Sorry, as a guest, not as a cast member.
Okay, so I did say Soarin' over California is favorite as a guest. Favorite attraction as a cast, from a cast member's perspective, I love the Mark Twain. That I have a soft spot for it, and I ended up learning the Mark Twain, and then I started learning more about the history about it and things like that. So I have a personal soft spot for the Mark Twain, and I can still repeat the spiels back, the recording spiels every time I go on it. It's just so comforting to me.
Well, you getting stuff like that gets ingrained in you. Like I go into the Haunted Mansion and I have to bite my tongue because I walked in there and there's an error but I'm like, oh God, shut up, bite my tongue. Or I am your host. The ghost, I'm like, shut up, bite, so I get it. That's awesome. So I have a follow-up to Jer's first question. Why Soarin' though? Why Soarin'? I mean, it's an extinct attraction, quote unquote. They bring it back one time a year for 1 month, or month and a half.
For food and wine. Yeah.
For food and wine, which is a great thing. If you ever get a chance to go to food and wine, Jer.
We were there in March.
Oh yeah, you were. You were there.
I think we left the day you showed up.
That's right. You did show. Again, we missed each other by a day, but food and wine, that was great. So why?
Yeah,
why
one of my favorites.
Why is it? What is it about Soarin'? Why?
Well, I mean, being from California, and I don't get to travel as often as I should, especially within my own state. And there's so many beautiful places to visit. This Soarin' over California is a way to highlight these beautiful locations that are just within this one state. You get the mountains and the oceans and the forests and deserts and everything in between. And again, I'm going to sound like a complete broken record, but it's again because of my grandmother. Pretty much anything she loved ended up resonating with me. So after she passed, and Soaring over California and different things at Disney is a way for me to stay connected with her. connected with her memory. Basically, the reason why is she raised me until I was about 13, so we were very, very close. And most of the things that I love at Disney is because of her, and it's just a soft spot for me.
That's phenomenal. See, that's so you saw my soft spot in March, what happened with me and with the Golden Horseshoe. So I can totally relate to that. My dad and I had a great relationship, and that's why the Golden Horseshoe. We had a great relationship when we were at Disney because we were able to bond over stuff. And Horseshoe is where we ended up having meals as a family. And going in there, it was tough, but I got through it. So I can definitely understand the sentimental aspect of it. I can understand
it's very healing.
It is. And being from California, I encourage you, because I grew up in Northern California, make your way to the Redwoods, please.
I need to.
I grew up in those tall giants, and I swear to God, that Redwood Creek scene that they had in there, oh my goodness. That doesn't do it justice at all. But I suggest if you get
it doesn't.
Go to the Redwoods, do it.
Yeah.
You said the orange groves. The orange groves are like my favorite part of Soarin' because that they just blow that orange snow.
Yeah.
You can actually buy that misty scent on a website. They have it that you can buy it from, which is great. But that's
one of my favorite times when I'm riding Soarin' over California during the springtime when I go with my husband, because we make jokes all the time with each other. Our favorite running joke of Soarin' over California is that every other location aside from 2 places is during the day.
Yep.
Los Angeles is at night.
And
we always make the running jokes like it's a good thing they shot Los Angeles downtown at night because it's otherwise a shithole. Pardon my language, but
no,
that part always makes us laugh. So,
well, yeah, and so you can see the progression because they do Malibu at dusk with the surfers, and then you end up in LA at night, which is hilarious because everybody has this false perception of like how beautiful and grandiose LA is, but it's really the lights and the glitter and all the glamour that everybody wanted at night. And it's just like, but you're right, there's only 2 scenes. That's funny.
And if you notice too with the Los Angeles scene, it's quick. It goes by so fast. It's like sped up. Like, we know why you did this.
They did it.
So it's just so funny.
Speed. That's funny.
Yeah.
I do. Now you say that. Yeah, that's funny. All right, Jer. Question number 2. Hit it.
Question number 2. Do you have a least favorite attraction at the parks? And I'll follow up with my least favorite. And you can do yours after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my least favorites, unfortunately, it's Tower of Terror / Guardians, and it's not because of the theming or anything like that. I physically can't do elevator drop rides because one, it's a fear of mine, and second, I have pretty bad anxiety, so I can't do those rides physically. But otherwise, I really don't have it. Oh wait,
yeah, you do.
I lied.
Swinging buckets.
What one?
Oh, hold on. Is my thing's going wonky? 1 second.
Okay, you're fine.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been having such horrible technical difficulties with my stuff for the last week and a half, but now Mickey's Death Wheel swinging buckets.
Yeah, I just want to say the Death Wheel.
I hate that ride. I refuse to go on it. I've gone on it twice and it was twice too many. So never again.
Jer, what's your least favorite?
I'll go kind of like you were talking about, like the fear, like Tower of Terror and all that, like the fear of just like the elevator type of stuff. That's how I feel. I'm a huge, he knows, big Star Wars fan, but I don't ride either one of those rides because Smuggler's Run is you're in a small little enclosed room, and that's enough to where I got to the door and I just started anxiety sweating.
The Smugglers?
Smugglers, yeah.
And then Rise, I know that the few spots where you're in small little rooms and Rise, even if for a few seconds, I know it's there. So even knowing it's there, I'll be hearing that part of it. Which sucks because that ride is amazing. I've seen it on videos.
Oh, that ride is.
Oh yeah, it makes a difference. So
another one that's gonna hurt you guys is
Mansion.
Haunted Mansion, because
it's
an elevator, and I know it's an elevator, and I've ridden it not my last time there, but a few times before that. And I just stood there, held my wife's hand, and I was just sweating. We went right to where the door was and just stood there. And I was like pure terror. I'm like, I know I'm in an elevator. I don't like this, but I know my wife loves that ride. So I'm like, I'm doing this.
You'll have to do it in November because have you done the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay?
Nah, I've already been thinking about it. I'm like, oh.
I'm gonna as a managing cast member, I was lucky enough to not have to because I left the parks. My time at the parks was short. I left before they did change over an overlay. So I came before overlay.
That's right.
I came after overlay and I left before overlay because I had some personal stuff that came up in my life that made me leave the parks early. However,
it was a fun time to work.
It was that we were the golden era cast members. We were the last of that era, and I was able to fall into it. But
yeah,
the overlay is very different. And as a guest, from a pure guest and a Nightmare fan, I love the brightness that it brings because the mansion we know is dreary. It's supposed to be that way. It's dark. It's subdued. It's morose
it's haunted.
Word you can think. Yeah, it's every morose word you can think of at the time.
Yeah.
But when Jack comes and takes over, especially with the new digital technology that they've implemented, and so the ride doesn't break down near as much.
No.
But number two, the brightness. The elevator, it's still dark. ER will always be dark, no matter what it is. But I think the digital technology they've added and the brightness to that makes it different. And also just the overall brightness of the neon colors and the fluorescence they use.
And it's upbeat too.
Yes. Yeah.
I noticed this year, maybe it happened last year as well. I can't remember, but I noticed this year that the portrait hallway leading from the elevator to the loading area is also brighter. Like
Yes.
there is much more light in there for the overlay than I remember seeing
Me too.
in the past.
Yeah.
So
I can agree to that 100%. And you know, it's so when you go into it, I know you'll have those moments because anxiety is anxiety. My least favorite ride is Goofy Sky School, and I'll tell you my anxieties of that ride.
I'm getting to that one.
The fact is Haunted Mansion has a different feel when it comes to Nightmare. But the fact of the matter is the anxiety still won't be there, but just go into it knowing that it's brighter. It's a lot less it's a lot less what the normal mansion is. But the elevator
it's less intimidating.
It's a lot less intimidating, especially walking up outside and you see the theming for Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And the cast members in the big old bow ties and everything. The thing that's intimidating about that line is the line for Jack and Sally over by Pirates. That's intimidating.
Yeah.
Other than that,
but
there's
well worth the interactions though.
It is. So, all right. You said you had
my least favorite ride.
Yeah.
You just named it, Goofy's, because I don't. Every time I ride that ride, I'm like, never again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ride it, and then I'll go there, and I'm like, with a group of people who's never ridden it. I'm like, all right, I'll ride it with them, and then I'm like, oh, that's right. I don't want.
You're like, damn it.
That one terrifies me. I don't care what anybody says. That is a terrifying ride.
It is terrifying, actually. You say that. It's my least favorite too. Besides, there's one ride in Disneyland that I'm not a huge fan of, and it might break your heart, but it won't break mine because they replaced it with my all-time favorite sit-down attraction in the park. You'll know what ride it is.
Is it Winnie the Pooh?
It is.
Because same.
Oh, I feel bad because I love that ride.
Don't get me wrong. I love Winnie the Pooh.
Never has a line.
It's
It
cute.
never has a line. It's great.
It's really
a cute ride.
It's really cute, but it's not as iconic as Country Bear Vacation Hoedown, and I still get guests to this day asking where it is, and I'm like, it's gone.
But
it's on YouTube.
Other than that, Goofy Sky School. It's so much as I've gotten older, my back has gotten beat up more, and so people are like, well, don't you feel the same about Matterhorn? I go, no, Matterhorn, I can actually position myself and get myself braced enough,
ready.
I'm not being flung around on the Matterhorn. Goofy Sky School, there's no adjusting yourself. There's those cars are like you're cramped, number one. Number
Yeah.
two, it's you pull down that lap bar and there is no getting out of it, regardless of what
Nope.
happens. And then
Out of all the attractions, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah. And then the sheer whippiness of that ride, it beats you up. I didn't even, when I was there in September, my kids are like, "Can we go?" I go, "Nope, we're not even doing it." I felt like a jerk, but I didn't at the same time because I'm like, Grayson didn't like Space Mountain, so he wouldn't like Goofy Sky School. So
Right.
there's that. And Gavin would complain the whole time about being whipped around and how it hurt. So I'm like, "No, we're
Right.
good, guys." And
Yeah.
I'm happy to say I didn't end up with the back problem that I thought I would. Now, when I went with Harrison nationally in March, because they want to go, "Hey, all about it," but they even came off of it and were like, "Yeah, never again." Didn't you and Mike go
Like,
with us
no.
on that as well, or no?
I sadly can't fit on it anymore.
That's right.
That's really the only attraction at Disney that I don't comfortably sit in. So, and I actually haven't been on it since it was Mulholland Madness.
I
Now,
remember
this is a
Mulholland
long time ago.
Yes, yes.
That was before the overlay, and that was the last time I went on it. And I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty funny. I would find myself laughing, but
Well,
I sadly
Mulholland
don't.
was
I
fun.
sadly don't fit anymore.
Oh,
Now it's like a near-death experience.
it is like a near
It's like there's no nets, there's no safety things. It's just, oh,
Goofy being Goofy.
I'm in your hands, Goofy.
Yeah.
Yep, literally.
Um,
I would pick Goofy Sky School over those swinging buckets though, any day.
We won't do those either.
yeah, I love the swinging gondolas. I'm the oddity. I do like that sort of stuff. But I did find when I went to Knott's, I can't do roller coasters like I used to. That was weird.
Yeah,
That was weird itself.
we're getting old.
I know. Well, it's just like, for me as someone who loves thrill rides, and you guys kind of broke my heart with Guardians and Tower of Terror. I love that ride. You know, I
I'm
love that
sorry.
ride. I love Monsters After Dark, by the way. That was great.
Yeah,
It was awesome to be able to sit there and like literally rock out to punk rock music at night on Guardians instead of like, the basic, Guardians mix, which is cool. I love it. But then just rocking out, just headbanging, and oh yeah, it's great. It's phenomenal.
that's the only part I do feel left out about because I am such a music junkie, and I know I would just love the vibes of Guardians. I can't do the drop. I just can't.
Man.
So.
Oh gosh, Mama
It is
Jules
what it
killed me
is.
on that ride. Mama Jules was hilarious. Sitting next to her and Harrison and Ashley, that was phenomenal. That's something you would have to behold and see. All right, Jer. Question number 3. I know we talked about our least favorite rides. We didn't actually get our favorite rides from the park. Emotional insights. What is your favorite ride?
That's a tough one. I mean, I know my favorites to start
It
our
is
trips
tough.
on. It's always, when we first stay there, we always bust out Pirates, then Indiana, then Big Thunder.
Yep. Classics.
Those are the big 3 we go to. I hate roller coasters, but there's something about Big Thunder. It's fun. I like
It is
Big
a lot of
Thunder.
fun.
Big Thunder's not really a roller coaster. You can consider it a roller coaster, but it's really not.
And then, of course, you got to watch the goat.
Oh,
Sit
the
in
goat,
the
yeah.
back and watch the goat.
Yeah.
And that's a thrill right there in itself.
The goat. Hey, I've always posed the question: what happens if he farts? Is he going to blow up? I mean, come on. He's got that dynamite. He's had it in his mouth for like 50 years.
You never know. You're speeding away from him so fast you
I
wouldn't
know,
be able to
you
find
don't.
out.
Maybe that's why the mountain explodes on the inside when you're going up and all the dynamites. Maybe he caused that
Maybe.
explosion to happen. That's the new
Maybe.
theory. That's the goat theory.
It's a good theory.
It is.
I
And we're at DCA. I got to go with Radiator.
Radiator's
It's-
phenomenal.
that's
Yeah.
hard to, I mean, it's hard to top that.
It is hard. That ride is something different. And I love that they brought Test Track to California and made it better than what Test Track is in Florida.
Well, it has a story to it.
It
Like,
has a
test
story.
track is just test track.
Story is everything, as we know. And that's when it comes to my favorite. So mine's very sentimental. I'm not going to go with Mansion, although Mansion will always be my forever, home and favorite. But the very first ride I fell in love with as a 6-year-old boy, and I love telling the story because it makes me smile to say that I was one of the first million people on this ride. In 1989, I made 89-90. I made my very first trip to Disneyland. What ride opened in 89-90? Splash Mountain. I was one of the first million people to go through that ride. And there were no gates. You can go back and look on old videos that are on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
And they literally, you would walk up. There wasn't even a yellow line painted on the ground.
It was very Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah, it was like there was very not very far. If you ever been not very far road, their log flume. You walk up, you stand there, there's rails that you held onto, and you had your parent, or they had a rope across it. That's right, they had a rope that latched. And that was their gate system.
Wow.
Yeah. And
my anxiety.
Yeah, 6 years old. I didn't care. I sat in the front, got soaked, and I was loving it. When the attraction worked properly, by the way. I was on the ride the last time. I love Splash Mountain. I still to this day. But as a cast member and that was my second attraction, I've noticed everything that was wrong and not working. And it's horrible. That's the other part of being a cast member. You come in, it flips on you like, oh, come on, guys, you can do better. However, that's my favorite at Disneyland because of that was like that very first ride that I remember riding. I loved it, and I became a cast member for it, and it just made that love even more infinite. There's some things that I will take to my grave. I even ask cast members about it to this day when I'm there, if it is still there. And there's a mural inside of that break room that I wish they would either keep the panels or preserve somehow. And they overlay that ride. I'll get to that question later. I have a question for her about the attraction overlay that's coming, but we're not going to do that right now. We have another question here you have to answer. And then DCA, I hate to say it, I love Radiator Springs, and it's one of my favorites, but I'm a sucker and a stickler for Mike and Sully to the Rescue. That's got to be like my favorite ride.
It's really fun. I like Mike and Sully. I think it's super cute.
I love the thrill rides. I love Incredicoaster. I love Radiator Springs, and I'll ride Radiator Springs 5, 6, 7, 8 times. But if there's a 5-minute wait over at Mike and Sully, I am picking that before I go to Radiator Springs Racers any day of the week. Every time I will rope drop that. And I got scared. I got my kids Scarer of the Day just by asking. We were there. There's no line. I just asked. I go, do you guys still do Scarer of the Day by the chance? They're like, and they're under construction right now. They're doing the facade. They go, we really haven't talked about that a whole lot. We don't. We do sometimes. But we haven't really had anybody do it recently. So me and the boys and my mom come off the ride, and they had the Scare of the Day certificate for us.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So I ended up with Scare. So I just made that love my infinity for that ride even more. And I remember when it was the limousine ride that was horrible. So
I never got to go on it. So
you're lucky. You didn't have to do all the and all that.
I'm just crazy. Yeah, I'm just calling it. I'm like, meh. So
yeah. So those are my favorites. I know mine seem sentimental. They're more sentimental picks than say like Big Thunder. I love Big Thunder. I always ride Big Thunder quite a few times. Indiana Jones, Pirates, Jungle Cruise. Again, if I can't, if it wasn't Splash, it'd be Jungle, just for the fact it's Jungle Cruise. Yeah, So all right, question number. What are we on? 4, 3. Question 3. What do we got, Jer?
Do you have a favorite hidden Mickey?
Ooh, hidden Mickeys in the park.
I do actually, and it's the tiniest hidden Mickey, and it's actually on the James, you'll probably know this because it's part of Splash Mountain. There is there's an entrance to the queue way back by the exit of Pirates, and there's like I don't know if it's just like a pole or like a height measurement.
You're talking by Mansion, not by Pirates, but by Mansion.
I mean tiny. Yeah, I'm sorry, by Mansion. But it's even tinier than that. It's tiniest hidden Mickey. It's disguised as a knot. Yeah, that's my favorite.
I've seen that one.
See, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, I know that one. Everybody knows the Mansion one. But
yeah, I know the one on Thunder, but no, the teeny tiniest. And I saw maybe a TikTok not too long ago, and they're like, "Oh, do you know where the smallest hidden Mickey is at?" And I was watching, I'm like, that's not correct.
No, Chris Provost just did a hidden secret about that as well, about hidden Mickeys. And so I knew about it being a cast member. When he brought it up, I just kind of laughed about it. I'm like, that's awesome. He's finally bringing it out. I think my favorite hidden Mickey is on Pirates. That's at the very end of the ride. Pirates.
It's on. And Pirates. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
It's breaking up.
There are 2 of them on Pirates, but my favorite is the very last one. The first one is easy to overlook, but easy to see if the lighting is right. It's in the brick wall in the pirate ship scene. It's where a cannonball is blown out part of the wall. It looks like a Mickey. That's the most common one that everybody is able to find. The hardest one, if you're not looking for it correctly, is at the very end of the ride on the chest plate of the armor.
That's the
Yep.
one I know.
Yeah, that's my favorite one on that ride. Jer, where's your favorite?
One of mine that I like that is on a ride that you don't have fond memories of is Winnie the Pooh,
Oh yeah,
because it's one of the easiest ones to spot in the Honey Bubbles.
the Honey Bubbles. Yes.
One of the easiest ones to spot. I like that.
That one's
There's
really
fun
cute.
ones in just Cars Land area
Yeah,
they have hidden.
they do. And Cars Land in general, they have some good ones. I like those. That's not all right. So let me back. It's not that I'm not fond of Winnie the Pooh. No, I just don't.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, it's
nostalgia for the
it's
history.
nostalgia
Yeah.
for the history of the ride. I like the ride enough because they kept a piece of the history, which I'm proud to say that they're there still, which is Buff and the heads.
Yeah.
That's cool. But
Yeah.
And if you know it's that, you're not going to see it if you're not looking.
no, yeah, exactly.
You gotta
But
look back.
but the fact of the matter is Winnie the Pooh, that hidden Mickey is great. I did ride that ride about 5 or 6 times. I actually rode it 3 times in a row with Grayson the last time when it was raining when we were there. We just stayed on. I go,
Aw.
I just did this number. I go, can you do again? They're like, oh yeah. So Grayson's
Yeah.
like again. I'm like, oh yep.
When
One
there's
more time. No line.
when
May
there's
as
no
well.
line, just like that.
Yep. And then we went and got splashed and got soaked. So
That's one of my favorite
Yep.
things that Disney does
My-
when they take over a new ride. Like a new ride comes, they always keep an old part of the old ride,
Yeah.
like be there. And they do that for all, like even like lands,
Mhm.
rides, everything. I love that about that because they're all about the history of it.
Yeah.
So now
I have a second favorite hidden Mickey too. If
what's
I
that
can
one?
share that.
What's that one?
It's the one that you can it's the one that you can only see from Google Maps.
Oh yes, the Google Maps one, the hotels one, the Disney Way. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Well, I'll pull up Google Maps afterwards.
Oh, you should pull it up.
I will pull it up, and you will.
Yeah.
I can almost screen share it right now if I wanted, and show. Actually, you know, what? I'll screen share it.
Some days when I go to work and I like walk because I live real close to
Right.
work. So sometimes when I walk there, that's the path I take. So I walk the hidden Mickey.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now so we can screen share.
Yay!
So obviously, what is it at? Disney. I should put Disney on. You put in hidden Mickey on Google Maps, and they're going to bring up so many. Bad idea. Because like a crop circle, where's it at? It's right here. There it is. They have it actually up on Pinterest, which is phenomenal. So let me share this screen real quick. Let me come back into here. We'll do some screen sharing, guys. There it is. There, do you see that, Katie?
It's still loading on my end.
Is it still loading?
That's,
There it goes. Okay, now I see it.
You see that?
half one side, half the other.
Yep. That's the hidden Mickey on Disneyland Way on Southwest Street. So that would be like if you're coming from Stovall's and right by Paradise Pier or soon to be Pixar Pier. So, but that's the one of the largest hidden Mickeys. And if you notice, they saw the Build-A-Bear Workshop pin on there, which that Build-A-Bear is now Blast Point Brewing. So, all right, question number 4, Jer. I know, dude, you've been building questions. Hopefully, you've been building more. I like this. I like the side of Jer.
Well, my last one I have is because it is Tattoo Infinity and Beyond. Is tattoos a little more acceptable now at the parks?
Yep, that was going to be one of my next questions.
And so I was wondering, what are your thoughts on how, like, because it kind of blew our minds. So we're there, we're like, saw cast members, and we're like, wait, what? Tattoos are visible? So what are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah.
So before you say anything, and hold that thought, because I'm going to give my quick interjection on that. I remember when I first got to the parks, the old Disney look was going away. So the old Disney look,
Yeah.
I when I first showed up to the parks, I couldn't have any of this. I literally, I was there
No.
2 weeks, and they implemented the new rule where you could start growing facial hair, and women could have painted fingernails that were different than just like French tips and white. They could
Yeah.
have different than regular studs in, and they could have their hair different than what the land necessarily called for, but it had to stay within the stylings. So with that, I was blown away as well, because I remember the old Disney look going away and the new Disney look when I was there coming in. Now, Katie, how do you feel? Because you were part of the first rendition of the new Disney look. So take it from
There
that
for all of
point.
it now. So the original one for allowing just facial hair, it it was more just surprising because I was just shocked that Disney was kind of loosening the reins a little bit, because for decades upon decades, it was a certain look, a certain style, a certain level of like, I don't want to call it professionalism, because I don't want to say that people with facial hair and tattoos are not professional, because it's not true. But for what Disney was aiming for, it was very different.
They
And
wanted 1950s conservative American.
yeah, exactly. So I was just more surprised that they were loosening the reins on that. I thought it was great because, you know, some people feel more comfortable having facial hair to themselves. It's a part of them. They feel more like themselves that way. So I would rather that person feel a little bit more comfortable in their job, just to look the way that they want to look.
I know
in a way.
personally, I did. I know when I first came, because I you have to remember, I was still in college when I was at the parks, but I had just been in the military not too long before that. So the whole short hair, having to keep that, I could keep the standard. It wasn't a big deal, but shaving every day sucks. It literally sucks to shave every day if you have to. And at the parks, that was like a standard. When I was off work for 2-3 days, I would let the facial hair grow a little bit because I didn't want to have to shave. And then they implemented that rule. I'm like, I was able to be more myself and be more the character that I wanted to be in that mansion costume than I would have had to be in conservative. So that's a great point. So go ahead.
And at the time too, when that was all kind of rolling out, if you remember, prior to them rolling that out, even if you had just a little bit of something that was not Disney look, they would make you either go fix it if you had the means to do it, or you get sent home. There was no other options.
And being sent home was like a no call, no show at that point, because
so that was a bad thing. Yeah. So, but now moving forward to like them coming back, you know, from the pandemic and lockdown, when they're allowing tattoos and longer hair and different hairstyles, while I like that it's happening, I see past it as a tactic. It was strictly a tactic so people would come back to work.
Yeah.
That unfortunate. And like I said, while I like the idea of tattoos being visible, because I have one tattoo myself and I had it done specifically because Disney had rules at the time. Yeah. Now I'm open to being, you know, more artistically expressive on my body with that way. But I couldn't help but see the strategy behind it. So but that's just me. So
that's also a cast member peer review, I think. Personally, you have some inner insight, some inner workings of how Disney does things.
And that might just be jaded views, but I can't help but see it that way.
I don't think it's jaded. Do you think it's jaded, Jer, on that view? No, it's a way, because we had just come out of a long pandemic. Disney was worried about the cast member shortage, which that's their own imposed
desperate.
Doom. I hate
desperate.
To say it. They are desperate, and the fact is I was blown away because of the, I don't want to say political nature, but I want to say that the nature of the culture shock that it created within guests, I would say. Because for me, being a former cast member, and I remember, I fought with this, because being a Splash Mountain cast member, you're able to wear shorts. You're able to wear shorts with your uniform, and I couldn't, because I have tattoos on my ankles with my calves. And the only way you can get away with it is buying tattoo cream and covering all of your tattoos. As for Jer, that would not work.
That's a lot of cream.
Jer would be broke from tattoo cream. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend the time. It's like $70 for like a little tube of good quality tattoo cream. I go, I can't afford that on my cast member salary, and on whatever other money I'm making, I can't afford that. So I had to choose to wear denim pants in 100-degree weather for my costume because I couldn't wear shorts. And now they're allowing people to have tattoos visible. I remember specifically, I was with JP. Harrison, and I think Ashley. I think Allie and Julie were off doing something, you were still at work, and we went to ride Matterhorn, and there was a cast member who was male, but had visible tattoos showing, long hair, like down to here, like emo style hair, and red lipstick. And that blew my mind. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that at all by any means. I think it's awesome to be expressive, but that's a culture shock to a lot of guests, don't you think?
I do think it's more of a culture shock because it's not what the old Disney look used to be. And
this isn't your dad's Disney.
It's it's our generation Disney.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's why I feel like it's a good thing that Disney has been loosening the reins a little bit, because it shows that they're willing to change with the times, with the new generation of cast members and new generation of guests. So and it's within reason too. They're not, you can't do everything, but they're at least giving you, these options. Like I could never get like acrylics done back in the day.
Yep,
and
I remember.
James, you know this. I love going to get my nails done.
Yeah.
It's as my personal hygiene, and
you like to
aesthetics.
Pin up, done up, and static, because that's the way you are. You and Mike are very retro, very nostalgic, and like he's a car guy. You're very 1950s style pin up. You like to look good. You like that style. You like that look for how you dress. And being a cast member, when we were cast members at that time, you couldn't do that.
No, I think if I remember correctly, we only could have clear nail polish, nude nail polish,
French tips,
and maybe just the French tips in white, and the faintest pale pink. Yep. And your nails couldn't be no more than like a 1/4 inch long.
Yep. I remember.
And so it was very restrictive, and it wasn't fun. And and that was one of the things like you always knew from when you met like a former cast member. They would go out and get their nails done. They go and get the hair dyed, haircut. They would do everything that they couldn't do while being in that position. And now they have the freedom within reason to do that now, if they're still working there. And I tell you, when I found out that I could have my nails, longer and crazy designs and colors, I went crazy last fall and winter. I had claws maybe out to here, and I'm painting with them, and they were from black and really fun, intricate designs, and it was wonderful. I loved being able to have that freedom.
You could literally be your own expressive self, and you could have like you can now design your nails around your costume, even if you're say a Mansion cast member, for example, and it's getting close to Christmas layover. You can do nightmare stuff. You can do holiday stuff because Now, I'm not saying they should do that because it doesn't fit that costume. It doesn't fit the part. For me, being the theater kid that I am, I'm like, come on, play the part, be the part. Facial hair is great.
Exactly.
The old saying was, and the old adage in the park was, you're a part of the show, you're not the show. Be a part of the show, but you're not the whole show. And that's the one thing I go when I'm there. I look at that. I go, some of it takes away, in my perspective. And Jer, you can chime in on this too. I think the tattoos and some of the long nails, depending on what land you're in and where you're at, doesn't fit.
No.
And it doesn't. And
cars could.
Yeah, cars.
I feel like it could fit maybe Tomorrowland
and Pixar. I think Pixar Pier you can get away with it because you're working on a beachy area. It's supposed to be the theming. Go with the theming, really.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Hollywood too, I'd say.
Yeah, Hollywood. Anywhere that you could get, like, because you have the townspeople of Hollywood. I love the lady who takes the picture. She took 15 minutes with the boys and made my day. It was great. And I interacted with her, and she was great.
Like, it doesn't fit Frontier.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't fit Frontier. It doesn't.
Adventure.
Really? Well, the Adventure in some cases it could, depending on where you worked and what attraction. Jungle Cruise, I could see it because
I can see that. But like Indiana Jones, I feel like that's kind of before the tattoo culture, so it wouldn't fit for that.
Yeah. Right. It's also hard because, as some people I don't think, well, maybe a lot of people know now, but when you're an attractions cast member, some of us have two lands to work in.
Yeah.
Like New Orleans Critter Country and Adventureland Frontierland, and technically Main Street. That's a part of Adventureland Frontierland. So it could be hard to keep up with it, and honestly expensive. But
it could be. I could see that. I could definitely see that. But Disney does implement ways for you in costuming to cover some of that too. If they were to, I don't think they'll ever revert, because when you see the last couple CEOs coming out of a pandemic with facial hair, and you have tomorrow sporting a little bit of facial hair, that policy is not going to be repealed at all. You're going to have more and more of it be pushed forward. So I think if they want to kind of stay with the culture and continue the path they're on, you still facilitate options, but also, like, I know women, I have daughters, they get fake fingernails all of the time. And that's not as expensive. I get going and getting acrylics and doing all that. But we had people that we worked with, like Lynn Stanley, great Instagrammer now, cosplayer.
Incredible.
She would she's incredible. And the fact of the matter is she's one of those artist people, and 90% of the people who work at Disney have some sort of art talent behind them, whether it's painting, drawing, photography, just something to do with your mind and imagination. You can get those fake acrylics and you can paint them however you need and have sets of them ready, for when you know what's coming or how it's going to be. Or, okay, I have to break these off because I have jungle the next 4 or 5 days, whatever it might be. There's ways to facilitate it and cover it. And it's not being restrictive. The reins are so loose. I think the policy should be dictated, like he's saying, to the land. I think it should be a policy thing within the lands.
Yeah.
And not saying landlocked people, but it will make people really choose and be right for where they're going to be. So I have a question for you. Did you see that there were some cast members that weren't suited for the lands that they were a part of?
Oh, all the time. I still see that.
So do I.
And it's whether it be that they're just trying to fill spaces, just to put bodies in where they need them. People are going to stick out like a sore thumb whether they fit in or not. So I think it just depends on the person too, how they make of it. If you can, I feel like if you can tell if they're out of place, it's because they feel out of place.
Right.
So, but that is just my personal opinion, my own observations as an outsider. And not many people are very adaptable, and that's fine. So I think it just depends on the person.
Me too. I like Joe's question because it allowed an in-depth, like, small discussion to take place over this, because it was something as when I was in March, I really looked hard at. I was like, oh man, this is different, and it took me off guard. Now I know we're broaching into some time here, and time is not a factor really for me, or well, it is a factor today. I'm not going to lie, but there's some other questions that I know that you have some good insight on, and this is one of them. What is it about the Disney brand today for cast members, guests, or anybody who's interested in it? What is it that draws people today as opposed to, say, our parents' Disney or our grandparents' Disney? Because I'm going to liken it to the comment that I made to my mom when I was there in September. She had one of the scooters and she looked at me and she made the comment that this isn't the Disneyland I grew up on. This isn't the Disneyland that I remember. This is not Disneyland at all. This is not the way the park's supposed to be. It's so crowded. It's this, that, it's the other. And all of these thoughts, right? And I told her, I go, Mom, this isn't your Disneyland anymore. I go, look around. The people who are on the scooters, unless they're 85 years old, they're your age. I go, this isn't your Disneyland anymore. This is, I go, not to be derogatory, this is my Disneyland. This is the kids' Disneyland because of all the IP-driven properties they have now. So what is the one thing that you think, I should say, is that the biggest glaring difference in those eras and draws people to the brand today as opposed to, say, back then?
That's a really good question because I hear that all the time still, even as a cast member. And what keeps me going back to the reasoning is it comes from Walt himself. Disneyland is forever changing. He knew that in the beginning. And as hard as it is for just us as human beings to let go of what we remember, of what brings us happiness as children, it's just hard to accept the fact that just things in general are different and they're never going to be the same again. But what we need to remember is that while we don't like the change, it's not necessarily a bad change. It's just new. It's different. It's things that we don't understand, things that we don't resonate with yet. But if we look at it from the perspective of Walt knew from day one, the Disneyland that he built was not going to be the same one that we have today.
I think the one thing he hoped that would be the same as Tomorrowland. If we're being honest.
Yeah, support Tomorrowland. They always get the short end of they always get the short end of the deal, and they deserve better than that. But because I feel that way sometimes. I'm like, today's Disneyland is not the Disneyland I remember when I was a kid. But
Right.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's while it takes getting used to, I see it as a new Disneyland to learn and come to love.
I see that being very true. I mean, Jer, how do you feel on it?
Well, I feel like it's almost kind of like take the mall.
Yeah.
The mall to like when the teenagers go now is different than the mall we went to as teenagers, which is different than the mall our parents went to as teenagers. So
Exactly.
everything's always evolving, and Disneyland is no exception. It's doing the exact same thing.
Well, and this is the one thing that people fail to realize, and I say it because his birthday was 2 days ago. It all started with a mouse. It actually started with a rabbit, then a mouse, but the rabbit disappeared, for a long time, and traded for Al Michaels and all that hoopla with NBC, brought Oswald back in the fold. But overall, the Disney Corporation started with a mouse, and Walt knew that it would never be completed. The only thing he tried to be ahead of the curve on, and it was never going to be completed, and that fit into the idea, and we just joked about, was Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland was the idea of, I see it now. I actually talking in this discussion. Tomorrowland is the impetus, the thesis of everything that Disneyland is supposed to be. It is never completed. Because if you look at Tomorrowland, that land has probably been completed twice, and it is still wasn't completed. His stuff it's innovation. That's what Tomorrowland is supposed to be. And you can turn Tomorrowland into an IP-driven area. Yes, Buzz could do that. You can do anything that has to do with space in the Disney properties. But the fact of the matter is an idea of innovation, and that's, I think, what people are failing to realize is that Tomorrowland is what Disneyland is supposed to be about. It's about tomorrow. It's about the next big thing. It's about what's going to drive the future. And I think that's the one thing I try to convey to my mom. I go, look, this isn't your Disneyland anymore. Yes, this is still your Disneyland because there's things here that you grew up loving. But it's not in the sense of, this isn't the park that you can go to and say, well, I want to go to Country Bear Jamboree and then go to the arcade right there by Country Bear, then go to Splash and wrap up a mansion. God. And then, it's not that anymore. That's before Star Wars Land. That's before the expansion of Rivers of America that pushed it, out, for the train, for the expansions and all that. It's all of these things that we fail to realize as an adult. And you hit it on the head. You're like, it's not the Disneyland, and it's like you said, it's not the Disneyland that we grew up going to, but it's changing. It's meant to change. It's like the mall.
Yeah.
I remember watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High about 3 weeks ago, one of my all-time favorite movies. And that movie starts out in some scenes in a mall. You have, those characters in a mall. Their life in the 70s and 80s took place in a mall for the most part. And that mall that you look at today, how many handfuls of malls are left?
If at all. Can you imagine that? Today's teenagers will never know the excitement of going to the mall with your friends after school on a Friday and then like casually flirting with your high school crush asking for their number there. They'll never know what that feels like, that excitement, that nervousness. They'll never get to experience these once or very unique instances that I feel like we were the last generation to have.
Well, and that's how I feel in some cases about Disney, because I remember the old Carnation Circle, the old where the Royal Fair is, where you now can go and watch the princesses give their show. I remember date night being Saturday night, and every Saturday night when I was on vacation with my family, they'd have a swing band there. No one's going to know the excitement. Like you talk about the excitement of the mall. Now put that in the Disney bubble. No one's going to know the excitement of that swing band or dancing or doing that because they don't do it anymore.
Yeah,
that's the ever-present changing, and teens won't know that because they took Carnation Circle and made Carnation Cafe and all of that, and Carnation's always been a sponsor, but they were hand in hand together as one entity at that time, and it was you don't have that anymore. You don't have the live music in Tomorrowland right now, which has always been there. You have a dance party, which is great for the kids, but it's like these ever-changing perspectives. Do you feel that with the idea of the infinality of Disney never being complete, do you think there will be a point where there will be a completion of some sort in sight, like property-wise, like expansion? You can't expand that property anymore. You can't do, there's certain zoning, as we know, for attractions and rides. But I know if Disney had it their way, they'd buy up every hotel and property around the area, if they could, and
if they
turn
could
it into one big resort area. However, do you feel, because I'm not even broaching in Florida, because Florida is a whole different monster. They have so much undeveloped land that they don't even know what to do with right now. The fact is Disneyland itself and Disneyland proper has only got so much imagination left. What do you do then when that imagination say, quote unquote, runs out?
That's really hard to say because Disneyland will always still change, whether they have the room to grow or not. It's whatever. Disneyland is the canvas. It's easily, it's harsh to say, easily erased, easily recreated. Look at Toontown, for instance. Toontown's been there for decades, and it's getting a complete new overlay, a new attraction, which I thought that would never happen because of how tiny that area is, and then also because I know what the whole area and behind looks like. But that Disneyland, in terms of reimagining, it's just going to be whatever's on the current palette.
I can, that makes perfect sense. And Toontown has been around almost 30 years at this point. In 2023, or when they open Toontown up again, it'll be ready for its 30th anniversary. It'll look 92, 93 is when it opened, and it'll have, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, M2R2, man. I mean, it's got a droid name already to it for an acronym, M2R2.
Yeah.
I mean, all they need to do is now punch a hole in and make a pathway to Star Wars Land, and then you're right there.
Yeah. Then then everything's connected.
The fact of the matter is you hit it right on the head. They're taking away space. Like that's like backstage area that they're taking away to incorporate certain things. So,
yeah.
All right, Jared, you got any more questions?
No.
No?
I think we've covered a lot of it.
We did. I got some good questions for you. We're going to go tattoo route now. We got a few minutes.
Okay.
We're going to talk a few minutes of tattoos with you because you brought up one, and we've talked a lot of Disney. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast and this vlog, that we would go. This was a lot. This is Disney heavy, but Jer brought up the tattoo policy and brought up tattoos. And what is the most unique tattoo you've seen so far at the parks, like from a cast member?
From a cast member?
Yeah.
Honestly, is it weird for me to say that I have not seen anything overly unique, or the ones that are not visibly that I can see? Because while we can have tattoos, they still have to be family friendly.
I think the only ones that don't have to be family friendly are security.
That's what I need to do then.
Yeah, I saw security literally. I saw a guy.
When I say family friendly, they can't
have naked women. They can't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I don't know what it is. I possibly just could have blinders on. I'm so, I don't want to say numb to it, but I literally just like, I'm like this all the
Right.
time.
It's funny
But
because oh, go ahead. My bad.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the the most surprising tattoo has not come from a cast member. It's always guests, but I'm always people watching guests more than I do cast members.
Right. Right. Well, I've seen some unique ones from guests too, but I was bringing up security. I like the security guard that I was talking to. I think his name was, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he literally had flames and like skulls on spikes. I'm like, wow. I go, that's
Yeah.
impressive. He goes, yeah, you know. I go, yeah, I thought about becoming security because a lot of you guys are like my brothers in arms. He goes, what do you mean? I go, fire Marine, because he had a Marine pin on his, on his tie. And I go, like you're my brother. He goes, oh yeah, yeah. I go, let me guess, you got that in service. He goes, yeah. You know, 9 times out of 10, the security guards are all prior service members, and if they're not wearing a long sleeve,
Right.
they'll have tattoos, or some 9 times out of 10, some won't. But you see
And
them there.
I think that's why I'm not so surprised to see security that way, because of majority of their work background. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't faze me at all. Like that just makes the most sense to me.
Right, because they're in a tactical situation, you know, although they're working the most cush security job in the planet, I think. That's something that I think about is this tattoos within cast members now.
Yeah.
Most unique.
We'll say this real quick. When I'm there, I will find you, and then you'll see unique tattoos.
Oh yeah, Joe's got you. Well, you saw part of this first video, so she's.
Chow. And I just added the Tigger. I see the Tigger behind you, so I'm like Tigger.
Yeah.
I've got
I love that.
this on me. It's
yeah,
unique.
but the thing is you have to.
I love it.
We have to stand out
And then be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to who you are. Now, adding that, do you have any tattoos in the future that will make you feel more true to who you are? Because I know you talked about your heritage, you talked Disney. Like, do you have plans to maybe in the future get more to symbolize who you are, or to?
I do. Yeah. I've always wanted more tattoos. I got my first one, my only one, when I was 18, and it's on my back. Again, I got it on my back to comply with those previous current Disney look rules. But now that I know I can have stuff in my arms, or technically, like I know some cast members have them behind their ears. They can't, if I remember correctly, they can't be on the neck, but I'm not quite sure about that. I know
That
for sure
would
they
be-
can't
yeah,
be on
I
the
can see
face,
that
nor
now.
would I ever do that. Yeah, but arms, you can have them on your hands, legs, and whatever. I really want on my wrists, I want just a silhouette of Mickey and silhouette of Minnie on each side, and call them my hidden Mickeys.
That's awesome.
And then those are really the only like Disney themed ones that I've been wanting for the longest time, because I'm really I really take tattoos seriously. About, I need to make sure I want them. I need to make sure I really, 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 really want them.
Yeah.
So that's really the only Disney one that I could come up with that I personally love. Otherwise, it's like flowers, and I may think about like a sugar skull at one point, or I can't remember the actual Mexican or Spanish word for the life of me, but those hanging paper cutouts that you see that they hang up for like different parties. Yeah. I love those. I may want to get like one of those one day, but for Disney wise, it's just my hidden Mickeys.
That's awesome. Does Mike have any tattoos? Because I know he's pretty conservative in who he is.
He does not. He has no tattoos at all. He used to want one when he was a lot younger, but he always says that, he's like, I grew out of them. If you ever meet my husband, he's an 80-year-old man in a 30-some-year-old body. So
he is. I love him to death, but he truly he relates with, like, he's like I am. He relates with an older generation on a different level, because he watches the old TV shows. He cares about old vehicles. He works with his hand. He's just like, he's a true man's man from the era, from that bygone era.
He is. Well, because he's the youngest child out of 5, and his parents are my grandparents' age. So
wow.
that's how he was raised, by this older generation, whereas I was raised by a Gen Xer. So
Right. So, man, Katie, I think I'm out of questions. Do you have anything else, Jer? I know you said you didn't think of anything else. I mean,
still got nothing.
I mean, we covered a lot. I know I will see you here real soon. We'll both probably see you soon because you'll probably end up meeting us at some point.
well, I'll be there for Dapper Day. So
I know. Yeah, I know. We've already talked about that. Gosh, we've talked Disney, talked tattoos, we've talked your passion of Disney.
Mhm.
So I do got. I'll throw one out there. What is your favorite treat to get?
Oh, yeah, food. We didn't even cover the Disney food.
Well, let me just say first and foremost, I am plus size. I like to eat, so everything.
Everything.
If I have to pick, so I'm gonna do a couple things. My favorite just snack, I love to get a churro just because it's iconic, it's traditional, and we have the best churros aside from any other Disney park. I pride that on us. And my other favorite just to go snack is a pickle. I love the Disney pickles. If I'm gonna go with a meal, it's a toss up between the Jolly Holiday combo, which is tomato soup and a grilled cheese, because I love to eat like a 5-year-old. But my other favorite is the Plaza Inn fried chicken dinner.
You mentioned two of my favorites. You and I actually we sat down JP and Mama Jules for lunch at Jolly Holiday, and we had that combo. Oh man, that tomato bisque. I was full. I ate like a 5-year-old that day.
So good.
But I also had it like an hour or 2 hours before that. I had a churro donut, which was a bad mistake. Those got me full. That's good.
There's just something about Disney food. I don't know. It's not like that. It's the greatest food on the planet. I don't know what it is. It's just so good.
Yeah, I can see that. Plaza Inn definitely. That's a winner for me. You hit like some of my favorite spots. I've got my own personals. What's your favorite treat, Jer?
Well, as far as like food, I'm a big corn dog castle guy. Get that hot link corn dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
Ooh. I've been
War,
hearing good things about that.
Mac and cheese bread bowl.
Yeah, the mac and cheese bread bowl is phenomenal. That's a good one.
Speaking of eating like a kid,
yeah,
that's get a carb load when you're gonna get all those the walking in.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm ultra excited for November because I'll be there at the very tail end of the like pumpkin spice.
Oh yeah.
Treats because they end the 10th. Then I'll be there the 11th, so I'll get the Christmas stuff. So I'm like, oh man, I'm coming back.
You get the best of both worlds, man.
I already warned my work. I'm going to come back out of shape. I'm
bummed. I'm bummed because I'm coming at the tail end of the Halloween season, which is cool because I'll still get a mix of the holiday stuff because they'll start putting out like holiday merch like the week before the holidays.
Yeah.
So I'll get the holiday merch side of things, and I'll get some of the decorations that are going up. They have a hard deadline at Disney. From everything I've heard and everything I've watched, the 11th is the hard deadline. They have to be done at 11:59 on the 10th for all the holiday decorations. That like the core decorations need to be done.
It's a lot of that's already in the works. FYI,
have you been seeing stuff go up already?
Well, not going up, but getting pulled out.
Oh, you've been seeing stuff. Okay, so it's making its way backstage.
Yeah.
So the insider info. See, this is why she's one of my insiders on my webpage and part of my travel stuff when I need her. I just tell Katie, what's the inside scoop? And she's right there. There it is. I'm like,
oh yeah, it's this.
So
they're getting ready. So
I hope they do a peppermint candy or peppermint stick churro this year. That would be phenomenal if they did something like that, like with a peppermint sauce or something.
They always do. There's always going to be something peppermint. Like Halloween time, it's always spicy foods. There's always something spicy going on. It's always. And then Christmas time, it's always the peppermints and the gingerbread and the warm, cozy feelings. It's like, I'm so ready. But if the weather down here would start cooperating.
Right. Oh,
I'm looking at my sweater right now and it's mocking me. And it's like, 80 degrees outside. I'm like,
Well, we're
I
just
hate it here.
at the very end of September. I figure the next 2 weeks, maybe 3, it will cool down. By Halloween, it should be in the mid 70s
And raining.
and raining.
yeah.
And
It
it'll
gets
be-
cold. It's getting chilly at night. I will say
that's
it's
my
getting
favorite
chilly
part
at
about
night.
this time of year. Down
Yeah,
here,
no,
because
it's for sure getting chilly at night because yesterday I was closing our stand in Hollywoodland, and at about like 5 o'clock when the sun was starting to set behind the buildings and it was actually breezy yesterday, I was like, oh, I'm a little cold tonight.
better
So
weather.
I was really happy about that. But like during the day, it was, while it was warm, it was still beautiful out. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold. It was just that really good middle ground. So
Perfect.
it was comfortable shorts weather, but also comfortable jeans weather. So
That's awesome. I'm excited because by the time we get down there, it'll be perfect at night for sweaters. You can still get away with shorts during the day. Bring your leggings, sweats with you at night if you want, whatever it is.
sweater weather.
You know me and my leggings. I will be down there in them.
I'll be in shorts.
Yeah.
I don't own pants.
Yeah, he doesn't own pants. That can sound very odd if he had just an audio version of this, but he owns his shorts. He's the shorts guy.
I was there 1 year.
He's
on
just
Thanksgiving.
he's just walking around with no pants.
Oh, 99 degrees on Thanksgiving? How the heck does that work?
That was like 3 years ago,
Don't jinx us.
3 or 4 years ago, and it was 99 degrees on Thanksgiving. And I'm like, my goodness, I didn't expect that.
I was there a few years back in the torrential downpour for New Year's Eve when the Backstreet Boys was there back in the early 2020s.
I remember that.
No, I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming Backstreet for anything. Backstreet brought it back that night because I could barely get through the park and I left the park early. Like they closed the park gate at 10 a.m. Like I got there at 7:30 in the morning for rope drop and I was in the park and I was one of the very few people who were fortunate to be there for New Year's Eve that day because of the park was at capacity. They had park capacity in those times was like 75. And
no,
they had it,
more.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's like it was 100. Yeah, it's 100.
I don't know if it's the same way anymore, but this is like pre-Disney, and I'm just putting it out there right now. I don't speak for the brand of company because I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
From what I remember, capacity always depended on who came through the turnstiles. Was it more children's tickets or was it more adult tickets?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how it operates the same way anymore. It probably isn't because of the reservation system, but that's how it used to be.
For New Year's Eve and for the holiday time, there's a lot more kids than there are adults. I will say that because you think about it, their families coming for Christmas, they're there for the week for New Year's. So you have the family of 2 or 3 adults and then 5, 6 kids. But I think it was like 75 or 100K that I remember them. I hear somebody talking about it. And I'm like, oh my God. I remember you had to go all the way around one end of Main Street, down the other, just to get to Plaza. They wouldn't let you cross. And I went under the white ropes before I knew the severity of why they do that now. And I trudged through puddles on Main Street to do that. It was phenomenal. It was rough. That was the wettest day I'd ever experienced there.
And to whoever who's listening and watching this, and they're saying like, "Oh, it's so busy today, and in today's climate, and blah blah blah." I'm like, no, it's not.
No,
you have not been there when it's elbow to elbow. You can't move. I don't know if you were there when this happened, James, if you had come in just yet, but one of my very first New Year's Eve shifts, and I was working guest control. I wanted to work it. I signed up for this. Let me just put that out there. But that was the first time I remember having like a medical run for us to go and escort this paramedics. It was okay. Let me paint the picture for you because this is kind of a story. So working Fantasmic guest control again, all of a sudden our leads get a call and they're like, hey, we need you, and whoever else, go meet paramedics at the Plaza Inn onstage entrance, which is right behind the corn dog cart. So think Main Street and where I was at. There was about maybe 15, maybe 20 of us that went down there. There was a group of us who were assigned to escort the paramedics, and there was a group of us to part the sea. Basically, we had to go ahead of them, and we were telling people, get, out of the way, move, and paramedics coming through. We had to escort paramedics on New Year's Eve through the club of Main Street, through Adventureland, which is already a bottleneck as it is.
Oh, that's one of the worst bottlenecks in the park.
And they had to, I don't know why they couldn't get to where they had to go backstage, but they had to get all the way to Splash Mountain. That was the most intense medic run that I was ever a part of.
Oh man.
And I was just part of the group that had to like split the sea. And we followed them all the way down. I think once we got to the end of the river over by, not right by Harbor Galley where the soup bowls are at, but just right before that, that's where they were like, okay, we got it from here.
Right where Pelican's Landing might be.
Yeah. Yeah, where Pelican's Landing might be. So
the busiest I had ever seen it as a cast member, I don't know if you worked that day. Your New Year's story, that was probably a month before I got to the park.
Okay.
24 hours.
Yeah, those were pretty bonkers.
Instead of leaving out the back door of the mansion and going through backstage, I went out the side door in costume, thinking, "Oh, I'll breeze through the park. It's like any other night. I'll breeze through the park. I'll cut backstage right on the other side of mansion. I'll get the jungle and I'll go through that backstage area and we'll be good."
Yeah.
Nope.
I
had to go to NOCC first. I had to go check the schedule. I had to go.
Oof.
I had to do the stupid stuff that you have to do on any given night going into the office. And at that moment, it took me from the time I left the door, the hidden doors, which I'll point them out to you when we're there, to go into the backstage area for NOCC where it says cast members only. There's like one area that I don't think you have a sign on. You just push the door. It's like a big swinging, like fence looking thing, and you go through it. And I remember I went and I came out, and it took me from that point to the backstage entrance for me 25 minutes.
That's a long
It took me
time.
another hour on the shuttle to get to K-Lock, to get to my car, and then another hour out of the parking lot to the freeway. It was insane. It took me, I was in the park an extra 3 hours almost.
Oof.
From the time I got off, and I had to be back at 8 a.m.
Oh, I remember specifically requesting not to work that too. I was
That's
like,
right.
no, I don't want to. I was like, no way in hell am I doing
It's your
that.
funeral. I'm like,
yeah, no, for real. I was like, y'all are nuts. I'm gonna
like,
be
it's your funeral. I'm
home,
like, why?
comfortable and in bed. Not as well. Can you believe that that all of that is more crazy than what grad nights used to be? Grad nights were a trip.
Yeah, well, grad nights are a different time, a different story. That we can talk grad nights.
That should be a whole podcast on itself because I got some stories.
Bring Roberto on for. I mean, that's a whole, like, that there are certain stories that you have to tell in context about grad night. And there are certain storytellers that have to tell those stories because we don't do them justice.
No.
I think the one grad night story that I will leave before we call it a show, Splash Mountain, the hole. Many people don't know what the hole is. I'll describe the hole in a nutshell. You go up drop 5. Anytime that you've ever been stopped at the bottom of that drop going up like this, if you look to your right, there's a pitch black spot, and you'll see just a very faint light. It's from the TV screen. It's a monitor that's right there. And there's a piece of scrim that comes down, and it's a black piece of scrim, and it's part of what you'd call the B rotation, because there's 2 rotations for cast members. You have main rotation and B rotation, and you got thrown into the hole as part of that rotation for half an hour. And grad night just so happened there was a girl, and so there's rows 1 through 7. 6 and 7 can sit together, but there were 6 people in the long. And I had been warned about this ahead of time about, just even when I came to shift, be wary of this, be sure. But I got a radio call. Hey, we have a flume coming down. We need you guys to just be vigilant wherever you're at in your rotation. Just pay attention to this one. I can't remember what number it was. So they get to the hole. And I see because there's a lot of people, and we get to all the boats going, it stops. Well, I see the girl who was in front of the boy in seat 6, or no, seat 5, and he was in 6 and 7. Turn around and jump down, or turn around, stand up, pull her pants on, and jump in the back. And about that time, I hit the ride stop, the emergency ride stop. And I go, excuse you. And I didn't come out of the scrim yet. And they pop up real quick and look around. I go, yeah, I just saw what happened. Get back to your seats, get going. And I don't want to see you back on this ride tonight. And I put the scrim back. I went back and put the scrim back. That people would do multiple things. That's just my story. There are multiple stories like that I know, but one in particular, I need a certain storyteller here to tell because I can't tell it the best way he can. You know exactly.
Tell them all. I will give you all my stories, and you can tell them.
Oh yeah, no. We'll talk about them in a future episode. But Katie, this has been a lot of fun. This has been. We didn't do a whole lot of the tattoo talk because that's what we normally do is tattoos. Mm-hmm. But Disney is important, and Disney's an impetus as to why we're doing this. Why tattoos are important. If you look at Jer's shirt, he's wearing the same pink shirt from the first episode. I don't know if that's the same one or if it's
it's the same. I watched it. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, I mean, it could be like your hockey bag.
It's not like that.
Okay. Well, but that's good. However, he's got his shirt. He's got, Jer's the impetus of why I want to do this. My love for Disney is, well, it's to infinity and beyond. You look at my pins, everything behind me, the sign from Marceline, all of that. But Jer just takes that guest that we love so much to the next level. And this is what that podcast is about: talking tattoos, talking Disney, and going beyond everything. And man, it's been so much fun having you here. I know we talk so often, and I get to talk to you on a different level, but having your stories, having Jer and you connect and tell some stories and answer questions and that he had, and just to be a part of this whole thing is great, because I know that we talked, there wasn't a whole lot of juicy details out there, guys. When I bring cast members on here, there aren't going to be a lot of juicy things. It's just going to be cast members talking about their experiences. They may have tattoos, they may have art interests, they may have whatever. But Katie was the first cast member that I wanted to bring on, that I pitched to Jer because I knew her story was unique as a cast member. So Katie, I thank you. I know Jer thanks you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, well, it was a blast. I know it's going to be about a 2 hour. This turned out to be, I wanted it to be like an hour. It's going to be like a 2 hour podcast, which is great for content wise. If people want to listen.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It really does. And I love you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, I love you too. And anytime, I would love to do this again.
Oh, phenomenal. We'll gladly have you back in the future. Have a great day, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Katie.
You too. Thank you.